Hey, this is Bryce Johnson from Expedition Bigfoot. You're listening to the Paranomaly Zone.
Look, I know the supernatural is something that isn't supposed to happen. It does happen.
A ghostly apparition in the dark of night.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Hey there, fellow zoners. You are in the Paranomaly Zone, your weekly dose of all things, you guessed it, paranormal, strange, and mysterious, and on occasion, true crime. And yes, you guessed it again. This is one of those occasions. It is time to dive into true crime. We're going to fill ourselves with heebie-jeebies. Before you know it, maybe a little vomit in the mouth, but it'll all be good. It'll all be good. My name is Patrick Koffenberg. And I am joined, as always, by my co-host with the ghosts, the paranormal poster boy himself, the guilty one of changing plans at the last minute, Mr. Mike Carb. No, you are now the guilty party of changing plans at the last minute, but we made it work. We're doing it.
Yay!
Yay! Igor, are you satisfied with Mike changing plans at the last minute?
No.
That's fine. That's okay.
No.
We'll make it work, and it's going to be good.
We're still getting... What? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Say what you're saying.
I said it's still going to be good. No worries.
Yeah.
No worries. We're getting it done early tonight. This is Friday, December 30th. We hope everyone had a very happy, merry, and safe Christmas with your friends and loved ones, and we hope you have an even better New Year's. And
yeah, that's like real quick.
Entire year to follow after that. Yeah, it's going to be here in 2 days, actually, Mike. It's a new year. Good.
Yes.
Golly, Miss Molly. So
that's right.
Good to see you, though. We are here. It's like I said, it's 4:30. We were originally shooting for 4 to get it done early so we could both go on with our lives on the Friday night.
Well, it's a grandchild to pick up and have for the weekend.
Of course.
I have. So.
But then Mike originally said, I got to make fun of you a little bit, because then we were shooting for 4, and then you said, well, how about 5? And I said, that's fine too. And so I go off and I start doing all sorts of things, and then I get a text from Mike saying, can you do it at 4? And I'm like, okay, yeah, let's go. And here we are.
Yeah, it was all came up pretty quick about this, making this drive to pick up the kid.
Oh, it's all good, man.
So, and we haven't had him for quite some time, so
it's time.
It'll be good.
Yeah, it's grandparent time, so that's all cool.
Yeah.
And Mike has got his creepy-ass monkey lurking over his left shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
Yet again.
I was thinking about putting some kind of a small light on it.
I was
so it kind of shines on. Maybe monkey shine behind my shoulder.
Do you have like a reflective or a lit like necklace or something you can dangle around them? Or,
I don't know.
Maybe a little hat.
I don't know.
How about a little monkey hat?
Maybe I'll make him like hold a candle or something and then burn our house down.
That's good. Good thinking. Good thinking right there. So I'm not sure if that's a good idea, Mike, but
no, probably not. Hey, I got to tell you, have you heard?
Yes. I don't know if I can hear anything now after that, but that's okay.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Well, poor Pele passed away.
Poor Pele did pass away. Yes, he did. Were you a fan?
82 years old. Oh, well, no.
Oh, jeez. Okay,
he was a human being, very famous in the world of soccer.
Do you realize how
do
you realize how you just sounded right there, Mike? You're like, are you a fan? I innocently asked, and Mike goes, well, no. I was like, my Lord. I wasn't asking if you were a fan of Hitler or something like that. I mean, it's okay. It really is.
Well, I'm not a fan of really any sports. I
know, but
I can't watch football. I've tried. I've tried to like it. Can I do it?
There's something wrong.
Can I do it?
Something wrong with you on that front, but that's okay. And I'm there's a lot of people think there's things wrong with me for being too much into the the ball of foot. And
Yeah. Well, there's no fun in watching these bulging beastly men hurting each other and
speak for yourself.
slapping each other on the butt when they do something good.
Well,
I don't like it.
Again,
I don't like it.
Speak for yourself. But getting back to Pele, yeah, the man himself was an ambassador and a wonderful guy. So yeah, it's always sad news to hear stuff like that. 82 years, yeah, that's a good B- run right there. Could have gone quite a bit longer. I've come to the conclusion that I rank lifespans the same way that you would rank a paper in English class. Like, you get up to 70, that's a C-. You get up to 80, that's a B-. You get up to 90, well, you're in the A zone now. You get over 100, that's an A flipping plus,
I'm hoping for like a D+.
I was going no, you're shooting more. You are at a low. No, you're failing right now, actually. You are failing. So
yeah, I tell you,
Mike, you need to get to at least a D-, please.
Yeah.
For the sake of our podcast listeners, Mike, get up to 65, 66%, and then everything after that is gravy, right?
Yeah.
Good Lord, I'm kidding, Lord. Don't strike him down right now, or me down for that matter, for jokingly kidding about Mike's lifespan here.
Well, like I had mentioned to you earlier, I have this morning, just as of this morning, I've been approved for long-term disability.
That's right, you did say
so
that.
And I got to wait till the 30th for my next set of shots, and I have no idea after that when I'll be getting my next nerve ablation.
Mike,
one day at a time. Okay, now I'm done complaining. But anyway, go ahead. What are you going to say? A question?
I'm not going to need to roll you in and out of the Velisca house when we make the trek there. Okay, all right.
Just like with the Sally house, if I had to, I would have crawled.
I know
through
you
that
would
house.
I know you would. You are a dedicated.
The Velisca house. If I need people to bring me in on a stretcher, I'm going to be there.
I know. You are a dedicated podcaster, dedicated amateur investigator of all things paranormal. And hey, speaking of the Sally house, I did just post 2 additional video clips from our evening at the Sally house, my sensory deprivation session, which I was going back and forth whether or not I wanted to post that, but I was like, why the hell not? And then a short little brief intro clip that we filmed right when we got there. It's kind of interesting, Mike. Have you looked at it yet? I told you last night.
I haven't. I've had a day or two of been very, very busy.
Yeah.
So. No,
that's fine. That's fine. No, at the when we're in the kitchen there, and I'm asking you to open up the door to the basement so we can give the viewers a shot at the creepy ass basement on Sally house.
Yeah.
In the bottom left corner, there's a interesting little something. I don't know what it is. It could be just dust, but it's definitely a orb-like, and it just moves in a really awkward fashion. So I'm thinking dust, but I want your opinion on it. So.
Well, if it was moving in an awkward fashion, it could very well have been a drunken albino mouse or rat.
That flies, apparently, because it was in the air.
Well, they can jump. They can jump.
Well, that would have
Ever
been
seen a mouse jump? Holy crap.
Like 4 feet in the air? Yeah, well, that's
at least.
That's pretty impressive. Maybe it was a mouse. I don't know. I don't think it was, but
no, it wasn't.
2 additional, like I said, 2 additional video clips added to the Patreon page. Again, the Patreon page is alive and well. We may be slowing down on recording Patreon exclusive episodes, but we are not stopping. We're just kind of on a temporary hiatus. We're still adding all sorts of cool content from our investigations and whatever the hell pops into our brains. It's really, really cool. You guys can check it out for as little as $1 a month. A lot of really cool stuff. 57 exclusive episodes. We got video episodes there. We got all sorts of neat little things. We have pictures of Mike in his undies running around in the cemetery. It's pretty cool. Did you know that, Mike?
Yeah, that was all right. Yeah.
I took those secretly. So
and I was wearing flip flops as well.
Flip flops, black undies, and a white tank top.
Black undies. So if it's kind of dark, all you see is white. Torso and head and arms.
Yes,
and white legs.
Yep.
There's like a blank spot in between there.
And a scully.
I have no penis area.
well, the scully is important. Don't forget about that. So that's
Oh yeah.
And
Skelly hat with Christmas lights on it.
I'm kidding about pictures of Mike in his undies. Actually, we have total nudes available on the Patreon.
I thought you said total pubes on there, and then you changed it to nudes.
I said nudes. I am not
Lord.
that gross. I am not that vulgar. I am not that immature.
let's get back on track here.
Yeah, this is a true crime episode, by the way.
Well, what we just talked about was a true crime. So,
Woo-hoo. Yeah, since we are kind of on a we're kind of rushing through this. Well, not rushing through this, but we're on a schedule, a wee bit on a schedule, so Mike can go have good old quality grandpa time, and well-deserved quality grandpa time. Yeah, this is a return to our true crime series. It's been a while. We haven't done one since our flippin' Fritz Harmon episode back in like July or August or something like that.
See, and I don't even remember that.
Really? Well, he was the wonderful guy who was known as like the Vampire of Hanover, and he was all sorts of wonderful nicknames because he enjoyed biting people's jugulars while he was. Yeah. Anyways, I don't want to get into all the gross details about
Sick
that.
and twisted.
So we've done. We've covered Ed Gein. We've covered Pee Wee Gaskins and the aforementioned Fritz Harmon. Well, that goes back in the day. We did the Ghost of Ted Bundy, the Haunting of Ted Bundy. Well, we sort of
did two great episodes of that.
Yes, we did. We sort of returned to
ours
true
and
crime.
Mr. Jericho.
We sort of returned to true crime when we talk about the aforementioned Villisca Axe murder house hauntings, because we gave a good detailed rundown of what actually occurred there and the paranormal aspects related to that gruesome, horrific, true story. And we haven't decided to, we didn't decide to focus on any particular individual for this one. We focused on an interesting topic, which is creepy and eerie in itself. We're going to talk about serial killers who were never caught, which is terrifying. And it makes you wonder, Mike, how many are still out there, aside from the one that have been given monikers, and nicknames.
Yep. I was just thinking that, yep.
I mean, there's got to be just innumerable, monsters who are, well, hopefully they have passed away long ago, but that there's awful people out there right now. Oh, man, I don't like
Absolutely. That. There's a lot out there that probably haven't even killed their first person yet. They are like serial killers in like the waiting room, waiting their time to come out and who knows what kind of inexplicable.
Thank you for saying that, Mike, because before we dive into, we found some pretty interesting lists here. Basically, fascinating in a gory way. Obviously, it's it's kind of the fascination with serial killers. It's like you want to look away, but you can't. You don't want to learn about it, but you do. But I wanted to bring this up. That the age-old question, Mike, this is off the cuff here, off the top of our heads. When it comes to serial murder, which side of the fence do you lean towards? Are you more of a nature or more of a nurture or a combination? I mean, what do you think is going on there? In your opinion?
I think it's definitely a combination. In my opinion, definitely a combination. I mean, yeah.
I agree.
There's so much that goes into a person that is capable of doing this. And I would have to say both, yeah.
Well, they have to be wired incorrectly,
Mm-hmm.
But also there are tons of people out there you would think who are wired incorrectly who choose not to do this, choose not to go down that path for whatever reason. Maybe it is based on nurture, maybe how they were raised, how they were taught.
I didn't go that way because I don't like the mess.
That's a good reason too. Very good reason. Yeah, Mike, he, as tidy as a person as he appears to be, that goes.
I will
along
not
with
be a serial killer because I don't like the mess.
Exactly. And let's just face it, Mike, you don't like the effort that goes into it sometimes. The
smell. I don't like the smell.
I know. Again, irreverent humor. We are not mocking any of these.
No, God, no.
These victims by any means. We have to throw that out there, though, because some people are offended by everything. So we just have to throw that out.
This whole subject is offensive. So I.
That's a good point. Good point.
But there are people that really like the true crime and the sick and twisted stories. I mean, there's
no doubt
people that really enjoy it. Yeah.
Well, I
have heard from some that do.
I just recently finished another book on Ted Bundy, maybe a month or so ago. And this one was written by the psychologist who did the who analyzed Mr. Bundy thoroughly back in the day in the 70s, after he was apprehended. And I'm drawing a blank on the exact title. I think it's called Not Guilty. And then the Ted Bundy murders or something, because it's basically about, it's really well written. It's interesting because it's coming from the point of view of a psychologist, of someone who knows the ins and outs of the human mind, And
That'd be too much to have in your mind and to have all that knowledge and deep research into that. Oof.
Well, long story short, he basically says that Ted Bundy, yes, he was born with this incorrect wiring, and he didn't write it that way. That's just my wording. But that combined with a lifetime of every decision that Ted Bundy made, going back to childhood all the way up through the day he was finally caught, is what made him what he was. So that's kind of what I'm throwing out towards you as well. Let's say, Mike, let's say that heaven exists and hell exists, okay? Just throwing that out there. Now, again, in your opinion, Mike, if someone is out there who is born with that, here we go again, incorrect wiring, has that awful tendency towards hate and is fighting the urge to act out on those feelings of hate, but never does. But they have that in them. But for whatever reason, how they were raised, how, they're a successful businessman, and they don't want to lose all their money. So, hey, I'm not going to go kill somebody or 900 people, because I don't want to lose my job. Ain't no reasons. I'm being kind of flippant, but I think you know what I mean. If you have those urges, but you don't act out on them, and under the belief that heaven does exist and hell does exist, does that make that person evil? Is that person going to hell, Mike, with those urges, even though they do not act out on them? And this could go for any number of topics, by the way.
Sure.
It's kind of a loaded question.
There's got to be but there's a line somewhere that's drawn between actually doing something and having a thought in your head. Because I think as human beings, we are all capable of that. I mean, but, being, air quotes, normal human being, because I don't know what that is. Now I'm starting to struggle a little bit here.
The sweat is pouring off of Mike's brow.
Yeah.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I kind of.
Oh, no. You haven't. If you have a thought like that, I mean, out of anger, and you're like, oh, that just, I could just kill that guy or whatever. I mean, humans say that all the time. Now that is just something, a human reaction. And then if you take it up to another level, it's like, I could just kill that guy. And then you have thoughts of, how could I do that? That's taking it to a whole nother level.
And there's also another level. There's also another level of having obsessive thoughts about this, where you
absolutely. And go ahead.
But you can't rid yourself of these thoughts, and you are hounded and haunted by this desire to go and commit these awful acts, but you don't, because it is awful, it is criminal, but you still have the urge. And so it's like, where is this urge?
Yeah. And how many levels?
Right.
How many levels are there of those thoughts? I mean, there could be 8 or 9 or 10 levels that each one, it gets a little bit closer to actually doing that. And I don't think it takes very far getting up into those levels to be figuring out that person's pretty screwed up. Right. I mean, the totally human thing of being frustrated and going, just want, and it goes, it leaves you without even you having to, try and stop thinking about it. But,
and as you
the
said,
more levels that you go up and
I think, as you said, is it safe to say that that's the normal part of being a human? Is that everyone has those
Oh, absolutely.
temporary thoughts,
Yeah.
those temporary feelings,
I think so.
but
You know, and that's me not being any kind of a psychologist or anybody that's
sure.
dug into anybody's brain or anything.
Yeah, Mike
But,
hasn't.
you know,
Mike hasn't written
But
any
that's
books.
my opinion.
I don't think you've written any books about serial killers, right?
No.
I don't think so. You know?
No,
Hey, maybe that's
no,
in your future.
but I have channeled Sigmund Freud before, and he has told me a few things.
Ooh, about yourself? Did you learn about yourself? Did you learn?
No, about you actually.
Oh, about me. Oh, I don't want to hear about it. So,
Yeah,
I
you
know.
frightened me a little bit, but it's good. It's good.
I know far too much about myself already, and it's all. Yeah, I was going to make a really
Patrick is one of
macabre
the
joke.
easiest. Patrick's one of the easiest, nicest, level-headed, with quirkiness to it, but that you'd ever want to meet. He's like an innocent child,
An innocent
and about the
child.
same size.
I am. Yeah, exactly. I'm just a
No,
little bit
that's
bigger.
a joke.
Just
That's a joke. That's a
little
joke.
bit bigger. Yeah. You know, and Mike knows me quite well, but I'm also. I feel like I'm on the verge of a lot of things. So I might seem even keeled,
Well,
but I'm doing that
Yeah.
out of self-preservation, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you know, even okay with me. Now, this is just an example, but as you know, and as listeners know, because I keep whining about my issues.
What?
I've been, you know,
What issues?
The stress level of everything added together, and along with all the pain and the stuff that doesn't go away, and it keeps adding up in the emotional breakdowns that I've had. I'm opening up a little bit here. I've been
Mike,
to the point of
Mike, do you
like,
need to lie down? Do you need to lie down to?
no,
Oh, okay.
no. But I have been to the point of like, how can I deal with anything, you know, with everything that's going on? And I'm not whining saying that, but I know that I'm stable. I can go through all that and be stressed out and not know, you know, I mean, yesterday I had to go to the frickin' food pantry for food, and that's where I'm at.
Oh.
But hey, I'm dealing with it. I have no thoughts of going out and killing anybody or even saying any bad things about anybody.
You know,
I'm a normal person.
I should cut that out and put that on the sound bar, just so we can have that, you know, documented and available at any time. Where Mike is quoted to say, "I am not planning on killing anybody," or whatever. So,
I thought you were going to say I had to go to the frickin' food pantry.
no. I was talking about the killing thing, but
Yeah,
so computer Mike, what do you think about Mike opening up a vein right there?
Enough of that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All righty.
I'm done.
Let's dive into a few of these
Yeah, there's a lot. There's some really
monsters.
nasty. Ooh,
Yeah. Did you just go wah wah?
yes, I did.
So, Mike was channeling his inner Al Pacino right there. Yeah. Well, let's just start with again, if you cannot tell, this is pretty much off the cuff, but sometimes some of our best episodes come out of our off the cuff, unprepared.
Yeah. Well, lately we've been doing a lot of off the cuff.
I know, sure seems that way, doesn't it? But this comes from an article that I sent you, or a link that I sent you. Gosh, what, a month ago now? At least over a month, when we first originally planned on doing a true crime episode again. One that caught my eye for obvious reasons. This man went under the moniker the BIGFOOT Killer. I was like, what? Hello, BIGFOOT Killer? Now, of course,
Killer?
yes, I wasn't like thinking about what, is there someone out there murdering innocent Sasquatch? And I'm like, no, of course I wasn't going. I'm not being that silly, boys and girls. No, the BIGFOOT
if you
Killer.
do, bring in the body for crying out loud.
Yeah, no kidding. Prove it. Damn it. No, the BIGFOOT Killer is actually a name given to an unidentified American serial killer who, and of course, you know, all this stuff is uncomfortable to talk about, but this man raped and murdered 7 girls and women in Detroit in between February and October of 1975. Now, all the victims were engaged in prostitution and were impoverished, with their killings taking place in the Cass Corridor neighborhood. also known as the Cass Ripper. The Bigfoot Killer chose young girls aged 16 to 22 who were prostitutes. 1975, he committed at least 4 rapes, with his victims going to the police and describing his appearance, from which a facial composite was created. Now, between February and October, the offender killed a total of 7 women, 5 black women, and 2 white women. Now, during the investigation, witnesses reported that the killer had driven a beige Oldsmobile, offering $15 in exchange
Which
for
is what a Bigfoot would drive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I was thinking more of like a Buick for some reason. I don't know. Offering $15 in exchange for sexual services, he then lured the victims to his car, after which he threatened them with a knife, beat, raped, sodomized, and finally strangled them. He was described, survivors described him as a muscular, tall African-American with facial hair and an afro, likely between ages 30 and 35. Now, this is where he got his name, the Bigfoot Killer. According to police, he may have suffered from acromegaly.
Oh, really?
Gigantism. Since, according to testimonies and other evidence, he had very large hands and feet. Hence the nickname, the Bigfoot Killer.
12 and a half shoes.
At least 12 and a half shoes. But
Well, that's what it says right here.
you know, and after this,
And he had a very bad, rotting smell.
he
to him.
stunk. He stunk to high heaven. And
Not making fun,
not
but
making fun, but sometimes you have to be a little silly and flippant,
Oh,
just
God, yeah.
just to shake the heebie-jeebies from this. But now, after this information about his physical description was revealed to the public at the end of 1975, a number of activists and several hundred residents of the Cass Corridor organized a rally in front of a police station, accusing the authorities of negligence due to the victim's social status, that being prostitutes. Yeah, that's always unfortunate, man. You know, that's a very common theme with a lot of serial killers. You know, a lot like Gary Ridgway. You know, he got away with murder forever and ever. He is, you know, some people think he is the most prolific serial killer ever because he focused on prostitutes, and a lot of people think that, you know, investigators, you know, police officers didn't really do their due diligence just because the victims were working in that field, which is, if true, is absolutely terrible. But long story short, too late. Needless to say, the Bigfoot Killer was never identified, thus never captured. Is the Bigfoot Killer still roaming around the United States or wherever?
I mean, the span of crimes ended in 1975. I mean, he could be quite old, but
well, in all seriousness, he would be if he was between 30 and 35, and this ended in 1970.
Oh, yeah.
What'd you say? In the 1970s,
75.
He'd be in his 80s.
75.
He'd be in his late 80s, and in all sincerity, people who suffer from acromegaly usually do not live to be old people.
That's very correct. Yes.
So hopefully this
Andre the Giant, for example.
very good example. Yes. So hopefully this this monster is no longer among us. But that's just one example right there. Man, the Bigfoot Killer. Mike, do you want to like kind of go back and forth with random monsters here?
That sounds wonderful.
Okay. Now Mike is perusing said list to find.
Yeah, if I would have known this, I would have.
Well, you know, because most of these have like these monikers because again they're not identified, so they have to have these, you know, these, for lack of a better term, catchy nicknames. Right. You know, so hey, feel free to nail any of them, Mike.
Absolutely. This one kind of really strikes me as bad, and I don't know if I should even go into it because I have no idea the backstory on this. But castration serial murders.
Oh boy! Okay.
Talk about sick and twisted.
Yeah. Oh God.
Whew. There was a series of murders of young men committed in between 2 and at least 5 American states. So he definitely got around between August 1980 and November 1986.
And again, you know, Mike, again, that's not a very common thing for serial killers. You know, when they travel from state to state, not saying it's never happened before, but that's, again, going back to Bundy, that's one of the reasons it made him so hard to capture for so long is because he covered, you know, a 5-state radius for a majority of his spree, but he traveled from coast to coast as well. A lot of people think he did. So this is another one of those.
As does his ghost, apparently.
That's right. Yes, go listen to our Haunting of Ted Bundy episode and go find our appearance on Taka's Jericho as well. It was great.
Yeah, Jericho he was a lot of fun to talk to about that. He had some pretty good ideas and everything.
Absolutely, he did. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. Let's see. This person would kidnap the victims, shoot them in the back of the head, and castrate them post-mortem. That's how he got his name, obviously. They were initially considered unrelated due to the crime scene's geographic remoteness until 1989, when forensic evidence concluded that the two of his victims had been killed with the same revolver, with the other three likely being related as well.
That would do it.
But he was, he got around quite a bit. Wyoming, Pennsylvania, Utah, Georgia, Connecticut, and possibly others.
Yeah.
The
castration serial murder. I mean, again, all these people are monsters. All these people are warped. All of them are sick and twisted. But what drives you to do that? I mean, okay,
ridiculous.
These people are dead, and I want to castrate them now. I mean, that is obviously some sort of symbolisms going on there, or it's something that makes him feel even more empowered. I guess I'm totally guessing.
Yeah, and there's so many things that could be a possibility. But all these victims were found close to roads that were frequented by truck drivers, which means the investigator suggested that their killer might be a truck driver or a door-to-door salesman.
That would be awful. Oh my gosh.
Can I sell you a vacuum and cut your balls off?
I know exactly. Not necessarily in that order.
Right. Yeah.
Good God. Yeah. Here's a Bible. Now let me. Oh God. Anyways, I don't like it.
In the 2000s, though, police arrested a resident of San Francisco, in whose house a can of preservative fluid was found containing a
What now?
Containing a severed male scrotum. It was sent for examination in an attempt to extract a tissue sample to establish the identity of the victim. But due to long-term conservation of the scrotum, no DNA could be extracted.
I'm not laughing at what he did. I'm just laughing at Mike saying the word scrotum in that manner.
After examining the edges and shapes of the victim's wounds from photographs taken during the original investigation, the forensic pathologist concluded that the scrotum did not belong to any of the known victims as of 2021, and of this date, none of the killings have been solved and are considered cold cases. So here we got this totally unconnected scrotum in a jar. Now, where did that come from, and why is there a scrotum in a jar?
That's another soundbite right there. Another soundbite right there. Mike just saying scrotum in a jar.
Scrotum in a jar. I hope you're writing these down.
I got to remember to do that, man. I got to remember.
Oof.
Yeah,
it's horrifying, and there's worse than this.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, one of the most famous unsolved serial murders, of course, is Jack the Ripper. I mean, you can't.
Absolutely.
I mean, perhaps the most famous serial killer. We won't spend your precious time talking about Jack the Ripper because, quite frankly, there's a ton of information out there. But it's still just so fascinating to me that will more than likely never be solved. Even though we've had as a guest on here the great-great-grandson of Mr. H.H. Holmes himself, Jeff Mudgett, who, well,
absolutely,
we encourage you guys to listen to the episode because he has very, very strong theories and evidence that suggests that H.H. Holmes and Jack the Ripper may very well be one in the same. That was another great conversation that we had with Mr. Jeff Mudgett. Available on the
absolutely fantastic. I bet he'd be happy to come back on again.
I think so too. That was right after his appearance on Ghost Adventures, and so we got to hear his some behind the scenes talk about filming Ghost Adventures. So that was really cool. Well, which next? Which other monsters shall we focus on now, Mike? Well, I'll answer that for you. Okay.
Yes, do.
Gosh, this is my word for the day, flippant. I don't mean to sound flippant, but some of these names are just ridiculous. There's one he's the Doodler, for crying out loud.
The Doodler.
The Doodler. Now, the reason the doodler is
He went
known
on cutting
as...
doodlers off.
No, we're not going there, Mike. Get your mind out of the scrotum jar. We're moving on. We're moving forward. The doodler, also known as the Black Doodler, is an unidentified serial killer believed responsible for up to 16 murders and 3 assaults of men in San Francisco, California between January 1974 and September 1975. The nickname the Doodler was given due to the perpetrator's habit of sketching his victims prior to their sexual encounters and slayings by stabbing. The perpetrator met his victims at gay nightclubs, bars, and restaurants. Now, what purpose does that serve again, Mike? That seems very similar to like how Jeffrey Dahmer would love to take photos of his victims,
Right.
in various stages of undress and sexual poses before finally committing the acts of murder.
Yeah.
Is this simply a method of preserving the memory of the victim for the murderer? They have so many. I guess I
Could be.
I could be.
But I have a question about,
Yeah, I'm not.
How
I'm
do they
not
know
done
that
yet
he
talking
did-
about the doodler, by the way. So,
did he leave these doodles with the body or what?
well, let's move on here. Let's see
How
if we
did they
find
find
out.
out
Now, it's believed that
these?
the doodler killed between 6 and 16, as mentioned earlier. Several victims were stabbed in both the front and back of their bodies in similar locations. All of the victims were white males. Police theorized that the victims had all died after meeting with the suspect near the locations where their bodies were eventually recovered. The suspect was described as a black man between 19 and 25, about 6 feet tall, with a slender build. In the early stages of the investigation, police believed there could have been as many as 3 different perpetrators. Now, there are 3 alleged suspects, actually several suspects, but now we go. I'm sorry, I lost my page there, everybody. We're professionals here, so I wanted to find the answer for why, how they knew did they come across these sketches, before, after. I guess what I'll tell everybody is look it up, because I don't want to waste their time while I'm scrolling through this article here and I lost my page. As again, we are very, 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 very professional here. But the doodler, I don't know. He wanted to draw his victims before actually committing the vile act. To me, as a my very, very amateur opinion, and I may be repeating myself a little bit here, it's his way of preserving the memory. It's his way of always having something to fall back on. A lot of these serial killers, they have to, if they don't literally take a body part, they want to have something to remember their victims by. So,
Yeah, that just shows that deep sickness as well.
Yeah. Oh gosh, what do you have next, Mike? All these people are so wonderful. That's so fun to choose from them, isn't it?
Yeah. Not meaning to keep with my.
Oh my God, we're going with balls again. Oh,
Well, no, I just going by the name of this guy that they gave him,
sorry.
Charlie Chopoff.
Ooh, good old Charlie Chopoff. Yeah, I remember. That was my neighbor from back in the day. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, Charlie Chop Off.
Yes.
Horrible. Let's see. Charlie Chopoff is the pseudonym given to an unidentified American serial killer known to have killed 3 black children and 1 Puerto Rican child. See, this is where I'm sorry I chose this. Children.
Yeah, children one is that's the worst to bear by far. The worst to bear.
Anyone is horrible enough, but
That's the one good thing about the ethics of prisoners. Like if a new inmate, if the word goes around and is discovered that the inmate is a child molester, child murderer, well, he's a goner in prison.
yeah,
So that's
they're taken care of.
that's
That's
that prison code of ethics, as awful these people may be. Anyways,
Yeah.
it's like, well, you're the lowest of the low if you harm a child.
yeah. This was happened in Manhattan between 1972 and 73. Also known to have attempted to murder 1 other child. 72 to 73, March to August.
Let me find the article you're looking at here.
It's on that second link that you sent me. I believe it's the second one. All the victims of this assailant were male, and the majority of murders committed by this individual involved the genital mutilation or attempted genital mutilation of the victims.
God.
Oh, I wish I wouldn't have chosen this one.
I know. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Well, this turns this whole episode into a sick and twisted. While the case is still considered an open one, Erno Soto was held as a suspect and confessed to one of the murders, but was considered unfit for trial and sent back to a mental institution. March 9th, 1972, 8-year-old Douglas Owens was found dead. Stabbed 38 times. Good. His penis had been cut but not severed from his body.
Good Lord.
Another black youth was repeatedly stabbed. His genitals were severed from his body, although he survived his injuries. On October 23rd, 9-year-old Wendell Hubbard was stabbed to death on the roof of an East Harlem tenement block. His penis had also been severed from his body. On March 6, 1973, a 9-year-old Puerto Rican child named Luis Ortiz was stabbed 38 times. Wasn't that so same as the first or the other one?
8 times, yep.
And likewise mutilated. Finally, on August 17th, 1973, 8-year-old Stephen Cropper was repeatedly slashed with a razor on the roof of a tenement block. He bled to death from an injury to his arm, although his penis was left intact.
Good God almighty. I hope Charlie Chop-Off is burning in hell right now. So
After the botched abduction of the Puerto Rican boy on May 15th, 1974, Erno Soto was arrested by the police. He was an intermittent patient of the Manhattan State Hospital since 1969 and confessed to the 1973 slaying of Cropper. His only surviving victim did say that Soto looked like his attacker, but refused to positively identify him. Manhattan State Hospital officials stated Soto was in their custody at the time of the murder, but also later confirmed that he might have eluded confinement as it had happened before. Despite lack of evidence, investigators still believe that he is likely a suspect, citing the fact that the murders ceased after his arrest and that an anonymous source placed him as a potential culprit on the first killing. However, due to his acute mental instability, he is unlikely to stand trial.
I feel like
that's enough of that.
I feel like I'm mentally unstable right now after listening to that. Yeah, what was that again, Computer Mike? Moving on?
Enough of that.
Yeah. Hey, Computer Walken. Christopher Walken, in one word, how would you describe all of these people?
Turd pile.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know.
Well, no, he answered. He already told you.
Yeah, I know.
Turd pile. Come on, turd pile. Moving on. Another famous example of an unknown serial killer, and one that is absolutely mind-blowing if you have the time to look into it. Again, we'll spare you all the details, or even the vague details on this one, is the Zodiac Killer. This one is just one of the most infamous, if not the most infamous, unsolved murder spree ever, and it just won't go away. The interest, and I don't blame anybody for being fascinated by this. How could you not be? The idea of, these codes and just deciphering messages, and the kind of apparent intelligence, the apparent, teasing the authorities, teasing the investigators, you're on the trail, you're getting close, all that sort of stuff. It's kind of similar to BTK. BTK did the same crap, although he was caught right away, but he loved taunting the investigators. That's another aspect of a lot of these serial killers, Mike, is the arrogance. The
arrogance,
nature.
the ego, look at me and look what I'm getting away with.
Yeah.
And who's going to be next?
Yeah, exactly.
It could be any of you.
Yeah, it's that sense of control. Yeah. It's absolute control, arrogance. It's just
probably somebody that's deep down extreme narcissistic and he believes what he's doing is right and he has the right to do it. Something like that.
Well, along the line of more unbelievably disturbing stuff, we might as well dive into the Toronto hospital baby deaths. This occurred in the cardiac ward of the hospital for sick children between July 1980 and March 1981. The deaths started after our cardiology ward had been divided into 2 new adjacent wards. The deaths ended after the police had been called in and the digitalized type medication, digitalis type, am I butchering that pronunciation. Sorry if I am.
Digitalis
Type medication that had possibly been used for the alleged killings had begun to be kept under lock and key. 3 nurses were at the center of the investigation and an apparent attempt to poison nurses' food. One of the nurses, Susan Nels, was charged with 4 murders, but the prosecution was dismissed a year later on the grounds that she could not have been responsible for a death excluded in the indictment. And a conspiracy between multiple nurses was regarded by the judge as not credible. The lead detective resigned. An official government inquiry discounted claims by the hospital's own former chief of pediatrics that the deaths were not homicides and were not proven to be from this digoxin. A second suspect was not prosecuted. It has been later argued that a chemical compound which can leach out of rubber tubing that was used in medical apparatus for feeding and delivery of medication and can be mistakenly identified by medical tests as digoxin had been the cause of some of the deaths. The deaths are still imagined to be homicides. However, some still imagined to be homicides by some, such as the epidemiologist Alexandra M. Lavitt, who devoted one chapter of a 2015 book to the case. Now the deaths, 20 patient deaths. 20 mysterious deaths. Something's going on there, Mike. I mean, the idea that...
Oh, absolutely.
That... How can a surefire source not be determined to be behind all of this? This isn't 20 accidents. This is something. There's
right.
Something obviously conspicuous, something uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. Again, children involved. Lowest of the low.
Yeah.
Nurses, who the hell knows? The Toronto baby hospital deaths. Not a fan. Not a fan.
No, absolutely not.
Did you want to take?
Well, I have one here. If you'd like to hear about it.
Come on. Let's
go
find a happier one if we can. We can't.
Okay, this one's kind of upbeat and at least by the name.
Yay!
And it's this guy. They called him the bouncing ball killer.
Oh, golly, Mr.
And by
again,
using
Mike,
the word ball, I'm
ball
not,
again.
Talking anything anatomically. This is a rubber bouncing ball. Let's see. The bouncing ball killer, also known as a bouncing ball slayer, the bouncing ball strangler, and the rubber ball strangler. He killed a lot of rubber balls.
He did. Yeah. What's he got against rubber balls?
Anyway, he was an unidentified American serial killer believed to have murdered at least 6 women in the LA area between May of 1959 and June 1960. During the investigation, a multitude of suspects were considered, and although some were arrested and one reportedly confessed to the crimes, the case remains officially unsolved. Victims, 6 to 7 plus, possibly. The first murder attributed to the bouncing ball killer. Yes.
No, go ahead, Mike. Go. You're fine.
Okay.
We're kind. You and I are kind of a little bit behind each other here, so we kind of talk over each other.
I noticed that. Yeah. Okay. The first murder attributed to the bouncing ball killer occurred on May 28th, 1959, when 57-year-old Ruth Gwynn was attacked while on her way home from work. The attacker brutally beat her, dragged her into a parking lot, and raped her. As witnesses tried to intervene, the man fled. Gwynn survived long enough to tell police what had happened. Though it would only take a few hours until Gwynn died as a result of her injuries, Gwynn had previously been attacked 7 years prior in 1952,
Good Lord.
where she would later be killed in 1959.
That kind of makes it seem like something.
Evidence suggested a link.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, I was kind of talking over you again. I was going to say it. That wasn't coincidence by any means, right there. Attacked twice, basically in the exact location.
And with that 7 year span between, if it was the same person, there's a lot of thought going into that. On January 29th, 1960, 73-year-old Amanda E. Rockefeller was murdered. Her body was found in an alleyway 2 blocks away from her home. On February 10th, 1960, 60-year-old Ann Cotter was murdered along Washing Boulevard while walking to church. 3 months later, on May 1st, 74-year-old Elmira Miller was murdered via strangulation in her home. Evidence found at the home showed that it was likely a sexually motivated attack. 12 days later, on May 30th, 60-year-old Bessie Elva Green was raped and murdered in her apartment, which had also been burglarized. June 20th, 83-year-old Grace A. Moore was murdered in her home. 6 days later, on June 26th, 72-year-old Mercedes Langeron was raped and strangled to death with a bedsheet in her home. She was found by her roommate, 62-year-old Adela Williams. Williams later told police that she had seen a man leaving the apartment as she entered it. The man, who was described as approximately 6 feet tall, African-American, and was bouncing a rubber ball as he left.
Hence the name.
She also described him as wearing Ivy League clothes.
Ivy League clothes.
Yeah, whatever that means.
Interesting. So she's like kind of suggesting that maybe, another well-to-do, highfalutin, well-educated individual, perhaps. I mean, you don't know that, but maybe. You never know. Unsolved as
anybody,
it is, it doesn't matter. Unsolved, it still is.
Yes.
Ugh.
Yep.
And
Anybody.
And this monster focused on the elderly, obviously. And who are more innocent, Mike? Children or helpless elderly half the time. I shouldn't say helpless, but you know what I'm suggesting.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
To me, that's even more of a coward. I mean, all these people are cowards. They're all
absolutely
monsters. But focusing on elderly women, that's incomprehensible for again air quotes normal people like you and I, Mike. Dr. No.
What do you got?
Serial killer. I got Dr. No. Serial killer. Nickname given to a suspected American serial killer thought to be responsible for the murders of at least 9 women and girls in Ohio between 1981 and 1990. So that spans almost a decade, which is terrifying, because who knows how many other victims are out there. As victims, he primarily chose prostitutes working in parking lots and truck stops located alongside Interstate 71. There are suspicions that he committed 3 similar killings in New York, Illinois, and Pennsylvania between 1986 and 1988, also known as the Ohio Prostitute Killer and the I-71 Killer. Some of the victims were prostitutes at the Union 76 truck stop in Austintown, east of Akron, and west of Youngstown, which is the largest city in Ohio, leading the investigators to suspect that the killer was, in fact, a truck driver. Most victims were found without underwear and shoes. Killings began in 1981 when the body of a young woman was found in Miami County, Ohio, April 24th. After a forensic examination, it was determined that the victim died from strangulation, having received a head injury beforehand. At the time of the victim's discovery, no personal belongings or documents were found, making identification difficult. She was well-groomed. There was no evidence of sexual assault. Investigators did not characterize her as a prostitute. The next victim was 25-year-old Marcia Matthews, who was found beaten but barely alive June 16, 1985, by a trucker. She died, unfortunately, 2.5 days later from a traumatic brain injury sustained after a beating with a blunt object. July 28, 1986, the body of 23-year-old prostitute Shirley Dean Taylor was discovered, who was also beaten and strangled to death. Before her disappearance, she was seen at the Union 76 truck stop. I skipped over that for Marcia Matthews. She was also seen at the Union 76 truck stop, where, according to witness reports, Shirley Dean went to meet a regular client named Dr. No. Now, we're talking about clients here, and we know what we're talking about: truck stops, lonely truckers, and women making a living, basically helping out financially.
Yeah.
Whose This Dr. No was never, his identity was obviously never established. Shirley Dean's body was discovered a few miles from the place of her disappearance with, again, underwear and shoes missing. So connections right there again with the...
So that was his collecting,
Yeah.
Mementos.
Absolutely. December 1986, 18-year-old prostitute April Barnett also went missing from the Union 76 truck stop. Her body found a few days later, 70 miles from Austin town. As with previous cases, the victim was beaten and strangled to death, with some of her clothes missing as well. Just a few days later, 28-year-old prostitute Jill Allen was found murdered in Illinois near Interstate 20. Now, despite the fact that she'd been found in another state, she was deemed a victim of the same killer due to the modus operandi. Allen had also been beaten and asphyxiated, strangulation marks found on her neck. Her shoes, bra, and underwear were never found. Next victim, 27-year-old Anne Marie Patterson, who went missing February 7th, 1987, from, you guessed it, Union 76, Austintown. Her semi-decomposed body was found 40 days later, 250 miles away from Austintown, near Cincinnati. A week before the disappearance, Patterson had been arrested by police. At the police station, Patterson gave information about a murder suspect and described his car. During the investigation, law enforcement agencies discovered that Patterson had made an appointment via CB radio with the client nickname, again, Dr. No, whom she characterized extremely negatively and then disappeared. From this, the police and later media used the nickname for the unidentified criminal. And I won't go on. It goes on for a while here because there's several.
Yeah, on and on.
But Dr. No, Union 76, truck driver, serial killer, unsolved, no one ever caught. Is he still out there? Or is he sitting there just living a happy retired life going, oh, remember the days, back in the good old days when I was raping and murdering women. Wasn't that awful or wasn't it wonderful? Actually, I don't think it said that he did. I don't know if he did commit sexual assaults on all of them, but either way, he's freaking just awful human being. Dr. No. No, thank you. What do you say about that, Igor?
No.
Exactly. Doctor.
No.
Doctor.
No.
Doctor.
No.
Exactly. Monster.
Well, if he retired, hopefully he doesn't come out of retirement and he dies an extremely excruciating death.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Hopefully the castration killer finds him.
What would be a good way to go for Dr. No, the truck driver, is if two other truck drivers tied up his legs to one back end of a truck and tied up his arms to another back end of a truck and had them both drive in different directions, maybe stretch Mr. Dr. No just a wee little bit. Good Lord.
Yes. Stretch him a bit.
Just a bit. So, Mike, we have time for a couple more if you do here. This list is disturbing.
I do. Well, how about the Cleveland torso murderer?
Oh, how about the Cleveland
torso murderer? How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds just lovely.
There is a caveat here that says not to be confused with Richard Cottingham, also known as a torso killer and Times Square torso ripper. There we go.
There are several torso murderers out there, and good Lord. Oh, then Mike's
the Cleveland
dog
torso murderer.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike. Again, we apologize, Mike.
Butcher.
Mike, 1 second. I want to apologize.
Yeah, it's just weird.
I want to apologize to our listeners. For some reason, our connection is going. Sometimes Mike doesn't hear me. Other times I don't hear Mike. We're both like, oh my gosh, no one's talking. So we both decide to talk, and we talk over each other. So I don't know.
It's very bad, very confusing, and does not make for a good episode. So hopefully
way to encourage future listeners.
Discussing is hopefully the content is entertaining enough to keep them going. So anyway, let's see. It was an unidentified serial killer who was active in Cleveland, Ohio, in the 1930s. The killings were characterized by the dismemberment of 12 known victims and the disposal of their remains in the impoverished neighborhood of Kingsbury Run. Most victims came from an area east of Kingsbury Run called the Roaring Third or Hobo Jungle. It could be a potential road trip. Go to Hobo Jungle.
Hobo Jungle.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, known for its bars, gambling dens, brothels, and vagrants. Despite an investigation of murders, which at one time was led by the famed lawman Elliot Ness. Well, if he couldn't find him. Then Cleveland's public safety director, the murderer was never apprehended.
You need help, Mike?
20 victims,
there he is.
September. What's that?
I thought you froze up for a second, and I was like, "Oh, do you need help?"
Oh,
And
no.
Okay.
No, it's just our connection, probably.
It is. Again,
The span of crime, September.
we apologize, everybody.
September 5th, 1934 to August 16th, 1938, in Cleveland, Ohio. Let's see. Oh, they have a picture here of Cleveland police searching for human remains. The official number of murders attributed to the Cleveland torso murder is 12, although recent research has shown there could have been as many as 20. The 12 known victims were killed between 1935 and 1938. Some investigators, including lead detective Peter Marilow, believe that there may have been 13 or more victims in the Cleveland, Youngstown, and Pittsburgh areas.
Can I interject for 1 second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Another just awfully tragic aspect of, I mean, all of these are tragic. All of them are awful. But I just read here that only 3, you may have said this, and I apologize if you did, only 3 of the Cleveland torso murderers' victims were actually positively identified. All the other remaining were either Jane or John Doe's. And to me, that
Really?
just adds so much more sadness to this. People who are murdered and they don't even know who they are. I mean, how
Yeah.
families are not notified. I mean,
Yep.
it's just
Yeah, never any closure for family. Or
never
anybody.
any closure. I just wanted to say, I needed to say that. So go ahead, Mike.
Let's see.
Unless you wanted to move on from the Cleveland torso.
Oh no, killed are the unknown victim nicknamed the Lady of the Lake, found on August 13th, 1997, and Robert Robertson found in July 22nd, 1950. In addition to the initial list of those killed, there's also those.
Mm-hmm.
But those dates are just weird. Anyway, the victims of the torso murderer were usually drifters whose identities were never determined, like you said. Although there were a few exceptions. Victims number 2, 3, and 8 were identified as Edward Andrassy, Florence Polillo, and possibly Rose Wallace, respectively. Edward Andrassy and Florence Polillo were both identified by their fingerprints, while Rose Wallace was tentatively identified via her dental records. Individuals, the victims appeared to be lower class, easy prey in Depression area Cleveland. Yeah, Depression area. Why did that one thing come up with 19? Well, whatever.
Don't know.
Let's see. Many were known as working poor who had nowhere else to live but the ramshackle Depression era shanty towns or Hoovervilles in the area known as the Cleveland Flats. The torso murderer always beheaded and often dismembered the victims, occasionally severing the victim's torso in half or severing their appendages. In many cases, the cause of death was the decapitation or dismemberment itself. Most of the male victims were castrated. Some victims showed evidence of chemical treatment being applied to their bodies,
I saw that.
which caused the skin to become red, tough, and leathery. Wow. Many of the victims were found after a considerable period of time following their deaths, occasionally in excess of a year. In an era when forensic science was largely in its infancy, these factors further complicated identification, especially since the heads were often undiscovered.
Now, Mike, some of those burns, some of those skin abnormalities, it's been theorized that this was caused from lime chloride. And it's
Trying to
suggested.
get rid of the body or
Well, that's interesting because it
or
suggested
identifying.
It suggested that the killer meant to use the quickening lime to actually decompose the bodies quicker, but mistakenly used lime that would preserve the bodies instead of decomposing them. So he's also not only an awful person, but he's an idiot. Because he's, I need to get rid of this quicker. No, you preserved them better. It's also
He
been
is at
theorized.
least an idiot.
Yes. It's also been theorized that the Cleveland torso murder may have some connection to the Black Dahlia murder.
I had that thought when I was reading that.
That is that's really really intriguing. Well, Mike, let's you got time for one more?
Absolutely.
We're over an
Let's do
hour
it.
now. Again, we apologize for the connection issues. Hopefully this has been fairly informative and even though it's a grotesque topic, but entertaining, because that's what we hope to do. Man, what monster should we end on here, Mike? Which unidentified monster shall we end on? Well, we have, since all these people should be relegated to death by sewer, let's end on the sewer murders, or the sewage plant murders. An unexplained murder series of male adolescents in the Frankfurt Rhine, Maine area during the 1970s, 1980s. Killings took place between 1976 and 1983. The victims were 7 boys and male adolescents aged between 11 and 18 from Frankfurt, or the Offenbach station area, where some of them may have worked as prostitutes, where they possibly met the culprit.
They're either prostitutes or they worked in the hot dog factory.
Mike. Thank you for that wonderful joke.
Sorry. I apologize for that greatly.
The boys' hands were tied to the back with a rope or cord and then killed by apparent blunt force. For some, however, death presumably occurred by drowning in the sewerage. Due to long submersion in the sewage and partly strong damage to the corpses by screw conveyors, the victims were identified relatively late, and on only one clear signs of blunt force trauma to the head had been found. A possible motive stated by criminal psychologist Rudolf Egg, that's his real name, Egg, suggested that the suspect might be a single person at the age of about 50, without family ties or friends. It is possible that the culprit himself had been a victim of sexual abuse and may therefore have developed a disturbed relationship with his own homosexuality or with other same-sex people. His inclinations included sadistic bondage. The suspect likely moved to Gießen to Frankfurt at the end of the 1970s and lived out his fetishes in the local milieu. He had also been familiar with the area and was highly mobile. The fact that he threw his victims into the sewerage after violating them is probably a hint to a deep-rooted hatred. Oh, God. Now, the modus operandi, as I mentioned, I mentioned that earlier today regarding another awful person. The first murder is believed to have happened at the body's site of discovery. Only when he resumed killing, the suspect could have figured out throwing a dead or dying victim down the sewers as a more effective way to get rid of them. The quick disposal of the bodies allowed him to carry out his murders, even within the densely populated Frankfurt area, without being caught. The victims were tied up, then the serial killer abused them and disposed of them like garbage. For weeks or even months, the bodies in the sewers began to decompose. The dead usually remained undetected in the sewage system for a long time until they were eventually flushed into the sewage treatment plants,
Good, jeez.
where they often blocked the screw pumps to separate the solid particles. The advanced decomposition of the bodies has made the identification and the clarification of the factual circumstance in the investigation more difficult. The first victim, for instance, was identified 2.5 years after discovery. Good Lord, why did I choose that one? Mike, sewage blockage caused...
Yeah, hey, you want to go check out that blockage, Charlie? I think there's some... somebody had some big, bowel movements that got stuck somewhere.
Mike,
then you find a body.
What was the case? What the investigation was? I know it's featured heavily on Ghost Adventures, and there's that footage of the. It's basically this. This occurred. I'm sorry, my mind is going all over the place right now. This crazy, wacky hotel is supposedly haunted and affects people severely. I know there's footage, security cam footage, elevator footage
Yes.
of this one victim going like nuts in the elevator, and she
And
disappeared.
you couldn't see what was going on.
Couldn't see what was going
Except
on,
for
but
her.
she went to the top of the building and locked herself into like the sewage treatment tank on top of the building and got stuck.
It was the water supply tank, wasn't it?
That's what it was, the water supply, not the
Which
yeah.
is even, I mean, which is horrible for anybody drinking water
Yes.
out of the. It would, and then I think people were complaining about, oh, the water tastes funny.
They were, exactly, yes. Thank you for
and
correcting
then-
me. I mean, of course the sewage thing isn't going to be on top. I meant the water supply. Yeah, people were talking about their water pressure was going down, and like you said, the smell and the taste, because this poor woman got trapped. She trapped herself in the water supply tank and died and decomposed, obviously. My
Yeah,
Lord.
I mean, can you imagine the horror for the rest of those people's lives that when they've discovered what that smell and taste was?
Oh my God. No.
You would never, ever, for the rest of your life, forget that.
No. You never want to stay at a hotel ever again.
Oh, good Lord. And you love staying at hotels.
I love it. That's one of my favorite things to do, man. I
Well, you
love
better
it.
think about stuff like that.
Oh my God. That'll be my first question the next time I check in at a hotel. Have you checked your water tank lately? I just want to be sure. Ugh. But my gosh, the sewer murders, how terrible. These young kids being brutally murdered, sodomized, abused, beaten, and
Castrated.
thrown into the sewer. Only to be discovered after blocking the sewer itself, the sewage system. Good Lord. Well, what a way to end on that one, huh, Mike?
Yeah, and one thing I was wondering is that, when they have a blockage like that from something do they have a special tool to clear that out?
A huge plunger. That's terrible.
It's just, it's horrifying. Anyway,
Horrifying. No, well, hopefully the quality of this episode wasn't terrifying. Again, for the umpteenth time, we apologize for the connection issues. And Mike, we're usually pretty good about not talking over each other that much.
yeah,
but,
this was excessive.
it was a little excessive. It was kind of a throwback.
I don't think it was our fault though. Well, that one was just right there was my fault.
Okay, well, good job.
But,
you ended on a bang. You ended on a bang. Chris Walken, will people like this episode?
I don't know.
Mike's mystery stomach / mouth gurgle. What do you think? Well,
Yo.
your mouth gurgled.
But as we finish this episode, this was just an extremely minute list
Oh my
of
gosh!
a huge one.
Yes, yes, exactly. We covered very few, very few.
And
just
as
due to
bad as the
time.
ones are that we discussed, I'm sure that there are so many that are way worse that we wouldn't even want to, have on this episode or on, to talk about.
100%. And again, just the
Yeah.
idea that these monsters have never been apprehended is just it's truly it's maddening, it's frustrating, but it's terrifying.
Yeah.
What the depths of depravity that humans are capable of sinking to is mind-boggling to people like you and me and our listeners. I personally can't wrap my head around. I can't even fathom the idea of seeing another human being, regardless of who they are, and saying, you know what, I want to kill you. And then, after doing that, I want to kill someone else. And then going on and going on and going on. It's incomprehensible for me, as it is for you and for everyone else out there listening to that right now. I realize that. So the human mind is fascinating, man, but it can be terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely. And I apologize for if anybody was offended by any of the crazy sick humor thrown in.
Mike, we have to do that. Our listeners are awesome. They know our humor and they know that we don't mean anything by it. We have to do it just to shake our heebie-jeebies off our skin every now and then. It's like, I make the joke that we feel like we have to take a shower after we do these sick and twisted ones. Or these true crime episodes, I should say. But man, as flippant of jokes that we make and as lighthearted and weird and wacky humor that we try and throw on just morbid topics like this, in all sincerity, God bless all of these victims. We hope that they are at rest wherever their spirits may be. In all sincerity, I mean, they're not forgotten. They are not forgotten.
Absolutely.
Mike, regardless of connection, this has been fun, man. Thank
Absolutely.
you. Thank you for making it work. I'm looking forward to next week's episode already. We'll return to all things paranormal, strange, and mysterious for sure. You go and have a good time being a grandpa tonight.
I will.
Awesome. I'm going to have a good time being a short geek. That's what I'm going to do.
He's got the mind of a
I
child.
do. All right. On that thought, Mike, what do our awesome listeners need to do?
Peace out.